Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my college football top 25. A lot of changes from my first top 25, which now that I think about it, I should have done a comparison, but I'll do that next time. This is the first one. Got the regular top 25 set up now. Let's get straight into this thing. So at number one, I got Penn State. I had them at number one in my first in my preseason poll. Yes, Ohio State did beat Texas, but I still think Penn State, rightfully number one at the start, did nothing short of dominate their opponent. Ohio State offensively still has some questions for me. They have Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, which is two really good receivers, but Jeremiah Smith did not necessarily have a good game. Carnell Tate had a really good touchdown catch, but that was the only form of offense that Ohio State showed. Since I'm talking about Ohio State, I'll go to them right now. Number two, Ohio State. They really were not doing too much offensively, and in fact, when you look at it, when you look at the stats and whatnot, Texas actually had more yards of offense. They were just making more poor decisions on fourth downs and whatnot. And Ohio State kind of just cruised to a really strong defensive victory. The thing about it for me is I think Ohio State has one, if not the best defense in the league. But I also think Penn State has a really top three defense, but Penn State's offense is going to be a super big problem. You're not going to have a performance like Texas from Penn State. You will get points scored on you eventually. Can Ohio State score points against Penn State? Do they even play each other this year? I would assume they play each other. Yeah, and it's at Ohio State, which is nice for them, but I truly think this is a Penn State team that can get over Ohio State and over the rest of the competition. James Franklin believer here, but this has got to be the year, in my opinion. This is the best Penn State team he's ever had, in my opinion. But I think Penn State is number one. I think they've got a way better offense than Ohio State. But in terms of defense, I feel like they're on pretty much the same level. So when it comes down to it, they've got the same amount of defense, and Penn State's offense is way more active than Ohio State, at least. If Julian Sain falls into a much better quarterback position, then he starts to sling the ball more and they start taking big chunk plays, I would put Ohio State at number one, but I didn't really see that. And that could be due to the fact that it was Texas's defense, but I feel like Penn State's defense is on that same level. So I don't have the faith to put Ohio State at number one yet. Number three, LSU. LSU kind of dominated. Final score is a little close, as commenters said. LSU should have won this game by more, and it was in Clemson's Death Valley, which is that's a pretty impressive win for me. I didn't think LSU was win this game just solely off the fact that Brian Kelly cannot win the first game of the year. He has not been able to. He finally did it, and LSU is cooking. Their defense is alive. Their defense is absolutely alive, something they were missing with Jaden Daniels. I think if they had a defense with that Jaden Daniels team, if they had a defense, not on this level, this is a really good defense, but maybe last year's defense, they would have won the national championship that year, and that team probably would have gone down as a better team than the 2019 team. They had Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, another receiver that I was shocked to figure out on that team. They were loaded. Jaden Daniels, who ended up winning the Heisman. It's just 2019, but more, in my opinion. But LSU was definitely cooking, and they finally put something together. Oh, Kyron Lacey. Unfortunate that he's gone now. But they had Kyron Lacey. They were loaded, man. That team was absolutely loaded. And they're cooking up again, man. They got players. LSU's got players. They are a good-ass football team. It is time for the Tigers again. Miami really impressed, and I feel like there's something alive in Miami now. Carson Beck feels like a different person, in my opinion. He said it in his post game. He said this team made him like football again, and it's just, I already said this in my other video. It's damn. like, damn, was he really playing bad because he just didn't like the team he was on? Like, he just wasn't getting along with people, didn't like the coaches, like, and we all slandered him because he wasn't in like a good mental area of football. And now that he's at Miami, what if he turns into like a GOAT again? What if he turns into a really good quarterback and transferring was the best decision for him? Definitely looked like it. He had a really good performance. I think he is up there in the Heisman quarterbacks right now. I would say Garrett for LSU is the clear favorite now. But I do feel like Carson Beck, Lenora Sellers are right there. I would personally say Sam Levitt, but a lot of people would like to disagree, so I won't. But just in the back of my head, Sam Levitt. But Miami impressed. Defense completely revamped. Something they really, really, really needed to get together. I thought they had too many holes to fill. You know, you lose Xavier Restrepo, Damian Martinez, and Cam Ward offensively. Those are three huge pieces to fill, especially Cam Ward. And then you got a defense that was absolutely atrocious last year, and they did it. Unless Notre Dame is extremely overrated, Miami did it. And they're cooking. They're cooking in Miami. Number 5, Georgia. I have previously had Georgia at number 8. But in considering they also played nobody, I will say Gunnar Stockton was not bad. He was definitely a good quarterback for Georgia. They absolutely manhandled the competition. I mean, he was 14 for 24, so not a really good completion percentage, but he still had 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. But he also ran the ball a lot, which I was like, okay, dual threat mode. Gunnar Stockton, dual threat. He had 10 carries for 73 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's basically the same exact performance as Sam Levitt, except Sam Levitt had that horrible, horrible interception. Basically the same thing. And to me, that is a really good position to be in. That is a really good look at a quarterback. And maybe he is going to be able to keep things moving for Georgia. And of course, they're going to have an absolutely dominant defense. Texas at number 6. Uncharacteristic of me to put Texas so high after a loss, after how I've previously bullied this team. I do think that Texas is a pretty good team. Their defense and Arch Manning, he's getting slandered right now, as he should. Didn't really put up the best performance, had a lot of accuracy issues, but I saw it. I saw the potential. He started to cook. They took off, somebody said, which was a great description, they took the training wheels off of him and let him sling the rock, and he actually started to perform really well. And I feel like if they would have done that from the start and let Arch Manning just experiment a bit, I feel like Texas would have been in a better position in that Ohio State game than they ended up being. Because that drive where they went right down the field and scored a touchdown looked easy. It looked really good, and Arch was making good passes, and it was like, well, maybe we got to let him do that more. Maybe he's just, first game of the year as a starting quarterback with the most expectations out of anybody in the league. I feel like that it was just a lot for him to do and a lot for us to expect him to do in his first game. And he's still, 7-14, your defense definitely helped you out a lot. But still, there's plenty of room for improvement. I don't think Texas is nearly out of the conversation yet, especially since I would say they have one of the easier SEC schedules. Oregon at number 7. This is actually they're at number 6 over Texas, but I still feel like Texas is a really good team right now, so I'm going to keep them over. But honestly, Oregon impressed. Unless Montana State is nothing like they were last year. They were the FCS champions, and they are extremely highly ranked in FCS, which I know FCS is nothing near FBS, but still, like Montana State, like last year, Oregon really struggled with Idaho, barely beat them. This year they come out and they absolutely dominate. And Dante Moore, man, he put it together. He really put together a good performance. And it was kind of just hard to stop Oregon wasn't getting stopped. That was the thing. 59 points. They absolutely dominated, and they got one turnover. They got one turnover, which I can only assume was near the end of the game. They put up 500 yards of offense, limited penalties. They just dominated. That's all there is to it, and I think they were actually super impressive. They get a non-conference game against Oklahoma State, which will just put the Big 12 down even more against other teams. But yeah, Clemson at number 8. They played against LSU. I don't think this team is out. I think they really were not impressive against LSU after watching it back. But after all, Clemson started the same way last year. They lost 3-34 against. They lost 3-34 against Georgia in a game they were right neck and neck with at halftime, and then the game just kind of slipped away from them. Same thing happened here. Clemson was up 10-3, and they just didn't score any points. And Clemson, I think they are still a team with more potential. And still, to me, I mean, now that Miami looks really good, and same with Florida State, I don't think they are the clear favorite for the ACC, but I still think they are one of the top teams. And I still think they will finish off college football playoff bound. They do have some really, really tough games right now. They have to go on the road against Georgia Tech. Later in the season, they got SMU, also Florida State, and then South Carolina. Those are big games, but a lot of them are home games. So, if you can put away the mistakes, Clemson can rise. Notre Dame at number 9. I was actually kind of impressed with their quarterback's performance. They said a lot of good things about him. The announcers did, and they played a really competitive game on the road against Miami. They were never really out of it. They were down pretty much the whole time, but they were never really out of it. And they played really competitive. I still think this team is a good team, but Jeremiah Love was absolutely shut down. Got to activate him. If he performed better, Notre Dame probably would have won this game. But that's their Heisman candidate. I think that was not a good performance by him. So ASU at number 10. I had them at number 6 in my poll. They dropped down 4. They didn't look too good against NAU. Now, being a person who watched pretty much the whole game, if the third quarter didn't black out on me, I know a lot more than the rest of the public would typically know. When it's hard to know how teams are unless you literally went through every top 25 team and watched the entire game from start to finish. You watched every play, every snap, every review, everything. It would be hard to know to take away every single thing from the game. And my main takeaway from this one was ASU had a ton of penalties, which can contribute to not necessarily being as good of a team as people think you were. But it was against NAU. You got to patch those things up. I'm sure they ran gassers. They are currently practicing right now with cowbells at full blast in their practice stadium. They got coaches walking around with cowbells, and they've got speakers blasting cowbells. They are getting ready for Mississippi State, and this is a really much-needed Big 12 win. I mean, the Big 12 is getting destroyed right now by other conferences. ASU's got to win this, and honestly, nobody's giving ASU any hope right now. Nobody. Everybody is saying ASU this, ASU that. Nobody has them winning the Big 12. Nobody has them in their top 3 teams in the Big 12. It's disrespectful. I really hope ASU, even if I wasn't an ASU fan, I would have hoped ASU can just come out and destroy Mississippi State, prove everybody wrong, because it's just like everybody's disrespecting him. There's like not a single believer for ASU right now, not a single one except for ASU fans. Like, that's it. There's nobody. If this was like Georgia Tech for the ACC, which it kind of isn't. I've seen a lot of people taking Georgia Tech to be the best team in the conference, believe it or not. But like, it's just like, how come Clemson and other teams in the conferences that are number one overall can still win it, but when ASU's the number one team in the conference, it's like they just aren't favored in any shape or form, and everybody just thinks it's because Scottaboo is gone. They don't even know who Raleek Brown is, or Kyson Brown, or Kanye. Like, they don't know who they are. They don't know anything about the team. I still got him at number 10. I do have him dropping because that was not a typically perfect performance. The thing that is just like burning in the back of my head, the thing that's just burning in the back of my head is that Sam Leavitt interception. Sam Leavitt was so good last year about not making dumb decisions, dumb throws, and making great passes. He only threw 4 interceptions, and only one of them was his fault, and that was against Texas. All the other ones were like tipped, like went through the hands of their receivers or tipped at the O-line and flew in the air and picked off. Like, not necessarily his fault. The only one that you could argue was his fault was against BYU, where the ball was tipped at the line, flew up in the air, and picked off. That's the only one you could really say was Sam Leavitt's fault, because, you got to be better than throwing it into harm's way, but also still it's like the hand kind of just jumps out in front of quarterbacks like that. He only threw 1 real interception in my eyes last year. He's already matched that in the first game, and it was horrible. I mean, the ball wasn't even really near the receiver. All the safety had to do was like jump up and catch it. It was not good. I don't know if he was just like, we're up, I want to take a deep shot, get the momentum going, do this and that, but I don't know, bro. That is burning in the back of my head. We cannot have mistakes like that. And the O-line just wasn't really doing a good job protecting Leavitt. And now that was kind of due to the fact that they were really up in the box. They were blitzing a lot, which to me just means get the ball out quick or run the ball. Like, don't let them blitz every single play. And that also could be because we were hiding plays. But Jordan Tyson, on the other hand, is like the light in the darkness. He did absolutely great. He was making some unbelievable catches. He looks like he's going to break out this year even more than he did last year. But we didn't even see Jaron Hamilton and Jalen Moss. That's another thing, is we didn't even see Jaron Hamilton or Jalen Moss. Now, last year, the same thing, Melquan and Xavier, they didn't get as many targets as Jordan Tyson, not nearly. But as the season progressed, they definitely started to, show their worth. Kenny Dillingham came out and said in his press conference, it's like, if you're not going to double Tyson, we're just going to keep on throwing it to him, which is like reasonable to me, because Tyson had a dominant wide receiver performance, and it's like, if you're not going to double the dude, then we're just going to keep on throwing it to him until you double him. And then once you double him, well, now Jaron Hamilton, Jalen Moss, Mateer, they're all going to start getting open. And even Kyson Brown had a really good receiving performance. He did good on the ground, but he did really good on the air too. Next up, South Carolina, really good performance against Virginia Tech. The only reason I don't have them over ASU is because unless Virginia Tech's defense is that good, they really struggled to score points for a long portion in the game. It was a very slow defensive game. And, when you got so much talent, Lenora Sellers and stuff, and the only reason I don't have them lower is because they exploded. And they got a punt return, which special teams is always super important to have. And South Carolina has kind of had a really good special teams unit. And then they got that big deep shot touchdown, and that was pretty much the dagger. That was clutch. That to me is important. So South Carolina at 11. Number 12, the Criminals, the Florida State God, what are they even called? Seminoles. The Florida State Seminoles beat Alabama. They're at number 12. Tommy Castellanos, keep an eye out for them. They just got to pass the ball a little bit more, in my opinion. They ran the ball a lot against Alabama, which some teams are not going to let you do that, so we will still see. Before I put them in the top 10, but still I think they're pretty good. SMU at 13. A lot of people are saying this team is a team that is overrated. They dominated They dominated. They've got a quarterback who was absolutely fantastic last year, returning to the helm, entering his second year of Power 4. He's seen it all. He went to Penn State in the college football playoff game. He knows how to handle the heat now. He's seen it. I mean, he didn't really handle it very well there, but he only gets to learn. You've got a really good SMU team returning. I think SMU is still going to be a really good football team. Number 13. Michigan, number 14. Bryce Underwood, really good quarterback. I think he's cooking. Did not really beat New Mexico by how much you want to see him beat him by, but that doesn't determine how your ranking is. You can, after all, Oregon barely beat Idaho last year. They proceeded to go undefeated the rest of the season. Texas Tech at number 15. I had them at number 15 last time. I believe I have them here now. I think they're going to be a really, really tough Big 12 team, and they're up there fighting for the Big 12 title. I think they'll probably make it, but they have a really hard one against Utah, so we'll see how both of those teams are. Not this week, but first conference game, which feels like eons away. We will see. Illinois, number 16. I think them at 11 is ridiculous. They do return a lot of talent from last year, and and a quarterback. They get good transfers and recruits, I'd assume. But still, I mean, they finished off a 3-loss team. They got beat by Oregon like 38-9 last year. You can return that team all you like into their second year, and yes, they could technically improve, but to what, like a 2-loss team that doesn't make the Big 12 championship and loses to the only 2 competitive teams on their schedule, I think they will flail out as the season goes. Iowa State. Oh, go Iowa State. Go Iowa State. I didn't even know that was there. This was like the best picture of Iowa State. Still keeping an eye out for this team. I've got them one spot lower than they are in the regular poll. I'm still keeping an eye out for this team because, I mean, after all, this is what I said in my Big 12 prediction video. I'd like to stick with a prediction that is looking absolutely correct right now. Start off with a close competitive win against Kansas State. Start winning some games, but as time goes on, it starts to dwindle. It starts to dwindle in front of your eyes. It starts to unravel, and they just don't perform really well. I think at TCU is a really tough one. Against ASU is a really tough one. Iowa, I think Iowa is just going to win there. Finish off the year against Oklahoma State on the road. That's kind of like a trap game in my opinion. You give Oklahoma State all year, and then they kind of just get to play spoiler in their home stadium. Tennessee, number 18. Their quarterback really, really impressed me. I think they are criminally low in the AP poll. Underneath Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Alabama, I feel like that is absolutely criminal. They performed better than all of those teams against an actual opponent. They looked dominant. I think Tennessee is going to be I think they're going to be a really good team in the SEC now. I was way lower on them. I think the quarterback and I think the team is actually cooking. It's too bad. I hate Tennessee fans. It's too bad. Florida, number 19. Oh, that's the one. I was looking at this. I was like, what team am I missing? Florida. It is crazy to me that Florida is all the way up at number 13 and they played nobody. They jumped up 2 spots for winning 55-0 against Long Beach. They for some reason just gave Florida 2 spots. And Florida State is under Florida. ASU drops a spot underneath Illinois, and Illinois moves up because both teams just dominated their opponents, apparently. We got to switch that. But Florida just gets a green light to go up 2 spots. Doesn't really make sense to me. SMU drops a spot for dominating their opponent. It's like, it doesn't make sense. It just seems like a lot of bias to me. Utah, number 20, skyrocketing up in my opinion. I thought they were going to lose against UCLA. I thought they were going to lose. And, yeah, they didn't. They actually dominated. And they've got a quarterback. And now that I think about it, Utah has kind of just been in the top 25 into every single season with really good teams. But they've had a constant problem. Cam Rising has always been hurt. He's always getting hurt. Now you've got a new quarterback who's healthy, who has potential. It's kind of looking like Utah's back. I mean, with Cam Rising was a great quarterback, but they only went 3 losses every single time he was healthy. And then even sometimes he didn't finish off healthy. Utah is now moving on from Cam Rising to a new potential, I would even say star at this point. I'm buying in. Utah could be cooking right now, and they kind of just had a blind eye turn to them finally. Now that they weren't ranked at number 12 in the preseason poll, it's like they actually decided to be a really good football team, but that could all be false. After all, UCLA could be one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. That could be true. And Utah could lose to Texas Tech in their home stadium. They could bounce back and lose again against ASU. You know, it could fall apart, but still, I'm buying. I'm buying on Utah. Georgia Tech. You know, they should have dominated Colorado. They still managed to win the game, which actually is more impressive to me because they turned the ball over 7 million times against Colorado. I don't think Colorado is going to be any good. And Georgia Tech gets to host Clemson in 2 weeks. This week of football and then the next week after is the one they play Clemson. Keep an eye out, man. Indiana did not look good against Old Dominion. I don't want to hold it against them too much, but this is a scenario like where some teams didn't look good in quotations, you know, because of their, like, they had penalties with this and that. I mean, Indiana, bro, you're getting 3 turnovers. You have 500 yards of offense, and 300 of that was running the ball, and you're only winning 27-14 against Old Dominion. Like, what is going on? And I do like Fernando Mendoza. I think he's a good transfer. I think he was a little bit of a hidden pickup there. But, I mean, he went 18 for 31 for 200 yards and 6 carries for 33 yards. I don't really know if he ran the ball too much, but I also feel like that might have been like a sack. No, it's only 1 sack, but I don't know how you put up 500 yards of offense and you can't score more points. They were 0 for 2 on 4th down efficiency, and they had a fumble, but Old Dominion threw 3 interceptions. And Indiana had 41 minutes of possession time. Old Dominion only had the ball for 18 minutes. They managed to score 14 points. You had the ball for 41 minutes, and you can only put up 27. I don't know, man. That was not a very good performance by Indiana to me. Oklahoma did nothing short of dominate their opponent. I think they're pretty good. Ole Miss, same thing there. Typical Lane Kiffin being a little loser. He runs up the opponent against a nobody to make himself look good in the Football Power Index. Of course, typical Lane Kiffin. And USF. USF is a team, I don't really feel like they're being slept on, but I feel like they're being slept on. People are not giving them any credit against Florida. And it's always a possibility that they could get blown out. But I think their quarterback is super, super good back there. He's a tank. Kind of just, I wouldn't say like Josh Allen, but kind of like Josh Allen. Josh Allen is more like, I don't know, he's just, the way they're both just absolute bruisers and they can take a hit. Like, he reminds me of him. He can run the ball really well, but it's going to be down to his passing against Florida. You've got a much better defense against Florida. Can you get it done? I think they're going to put up a competitive performance, as well as USF's defense, though, is a hard-hitting defense. You just can't let them get behind you. DJ Lagway is a very good quarterback. You can't let them get explosive plays because it's at Florida. You can't let them take the momentum. But we will see. But that is all for my top 25. Let me know what you guys think about your top 25 in the comments. Like, straight up, just drop me a list of your top 25. Like and subscribe, it up, a comment always helps. That's all for me. Adios.